Welcome back to the second edition of the Lawless Sports Podcast. I am your host, Casey Lawless, and we're not going to waste any time, and we're going to get right into things. So, Patriots have been the talk of the town. Considering the moves that they have been making or could possibly make, the New England Patriots have had Austin Seferian-Jenkins, former Jaguar. He could be a possible nice complement to Tom Brady in the friendly tight end system that they have, and he just actually visited New England 3 days ago. Demaryius Thomas, who a lot of teams were looking at to possibly bring in to help that receiver core. Demaryius Thomas has finally finalized that deal. 1 year, $6 million. Not sure how much is guaranteed, but he will be one of the next starting wide receivers for the New England Patriots. I just don't know how New England is just constantly doing this. They're constantly finding talented receivers at kind of late bloom in their career, and they're just going to throw them right in the slot and just catch probably 60 balls, at least 1,000 yards, and probably 6 touchdown passes. So, it's definitely interesting how Bill Belichick is able to constantly be able to recruit these guys, and they just know that they're going into a winning culture and a winning system because you have Tom Brady throwing you the football, and you have the greatest head coach in NFL history telling you exactly what you need to do when you need to do it. So, their recruitment has been honestly as impressive as if a college were recruiting players, because everybody wants to play for New England at one time or another. But speaking of Tom Brady, though, a couple other players not players yet, but who are entering the NFL draft, have gone to the Patriots facility, and that are quarterbacks Daniel Jones from Duke and Will Grier from West Virginia. Daniel Jones is an interesting one because they ran a lot of zone read at Duke, and that is something that Bill Belichick does not run, but he is a fan of the play action from the shotgun, RPOs, and he's adding that and implementing it more and more into his offense as the years progress. So with a guy like Daniel Jones, his arm talent is questionable, but his athleticism is not questionable. It's not questioned at all. Daniel Jones can run you about 60 to 70 yards a game, and that is something that a defense has to prepare for constantly. And when you have the possibility of the quarterback running the football, it opens up the short game, it opens up the medium, it opens up them pulling back a defensive lineman, opening up the run game. It means so many different things that Daniel Jones is definitely a possible candidate to be the next quarterback in the New England Patriots. And then you take a guy like Will Grier, and all Will Grier does really is win. He won it in the high school level. He won it in the college level. The only issue is that his arm talent, or at least his arm power, really is throwing arm. It's not the greatest. He's not gonna get it 60 yards, 55 yards down the field. He can throw a perfectly accurate ball going 40 to 45 yards down the field, which at the NFL level is solid, but not incredible. Really, like an Alex Smith type arm there. But Will Grier definitely he's just kind of a winner. He stands in the pocket. He always has a feeling or gives the fans a feeling that he knows exactly what he's doing with the football. And Belichick loves that confidence. So do not be shocked if Will Grier, will be the one to replace Tom Brady. And where does that mean for Tom Brady? Does Tom Brady end up anywhere else? Is Tom Brady Is he going to retire as a Patriot? Well, of course he is. But will he sign with another team? He still feels like he could probably play for another 2-3 seasons. And if Belichick wants to tell him to kick the curb next season, what does that mean for Brady? If Robert Kraft has anything to say about it, he's not going to be a backup to any of these young guys. He'll definitely try to be, a good role model and try to bring them up like he did with Jimmy Garoppolo and even Jacoby Brissett. But I don't see Tom Brady taking a back seat to a 22-year-old quarterback. I just don't see it. Brady being my favorite player of all time, I don't want to see him go, but it has to be time. It has to come sometime. And Belichick, we all know, wanted it a couple seasons back, but Robert Kraft was, opposed to that. But, I feel like we're going to learn a little bit more about what New England wants to do with this upcoming draft. If they're able to snag Will Grier or Daniel Jones in the high first round, we could just be seeing the beginning of the end for Tom Brady. But with all that being said, we're just jump right into this next topic. It's an interesting one. Sean McVay, one of the bright young head coaches in the NFL, provided a statement to the NFL Network, and he said, and I quote, "You can expect Todd Gurley to be the focal point of the offense going forward." Now, that's quite the statement coming from the guy who barely gave the ball to the number one running back in football last season in the Super Bowl, and now you're going to say he's going to be the focal point. The problem is his injury history. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, is the man going to be the same running back that he was before, the last couple seasons? I mean, we all know that god-awful second season that he had, and then that breakout third, and then just this last season, he's just been almost unstoppable running or catching the football. Is his injury history going to be something that is going to truly affect his position in this offense? Do you look for a running back in the draft? Do you try to maybe bring in another running back through free agency to take the load off with Todd Gurley? What do you think? Do the Rams trade up to get a guy like Josh Jacobs from Alabama to take some of that load off of Todd Gurley? I mean, a lot of different things could be happening with that, but we shall see how it comes forward. How does that play forward into fantasy, though? I'm a huge fantasy football fan. I've been playing since I was 12 years old, but I've been playing more consistently since I was 14. So for the last 6 years of my life, I've really been into fantasy football for a long time. And is Todd Gurley a guy I'm taking a chance on? Absolutely. If I have a top 5 pick and Todd Gurley's there, I'm taking him. The man just does too many things right consistently on the field. He's not a locker room issue. He's getting at least 12 to 14 touches a game. And if you're playing PPR, that is huge. You're betting on at least 10 touchdowns next season from him. So I think Todd Gurley is still a no-brainer in fantasy. But I have players above him. I mean, I even have a guy like Antonio Brown possibly above him in the first round. I mean, I know Big Ben isn't throwing him the football, but it's still Antonio Brown. He's still probably getting at least 100 catches. And for AB, that's practically nothing at this point. I mean, the man has had seasons with 120 and 136. Like, the dude just knows how to catch the football and get open and create space and give his quarterback time to be able to get him the ball. So, no question, AB is up there for me. I have Le'Veon Bell up there. I think Le'Veon Bell, this is a bounce-back season for him in New York. I think he's going to take the load off of Sam Darnold, and I think he's going to be a tremendous player. I'm looking at a guy like Zeke. I'm looking at a guy like even McCaffrey. Saquon Barkley may be the consensus number one fantasy pick next season, considering he is the Giants. He is the entire New York Giants offense. So, with all that being said, if Todd Gurley is somebody that you think might not have a fantasy impact, I would really rethink that, because Todd Gurley is definitely someone to me who's a special player, and I think he's going to continue to be as long as he continues with his rehab on his leg and hopefully just try to be as strong as possible and just take care of his body as much as he can. If he's a guy who can get the ball around 230 times next season, he's going to be one of the freshest Todd Gurleys we've seen since he entered the league. And trust me, it's going to do dividends for your fantasy football team. So, we're going to skyrocket right into this next topic. This is going to be a big one. It's going to take up a little bit of time, but this truly has been the biggest free agency in my lifetime. In terms of current impact, in terms of what it's going to do for teams next season, for teams and players alike. What is the most interesting story? One of the most interesting stories was Odell Beckham Jr., the most polarizing wide receiver in the game of football. I mean, because of his unbelievable talent, that's number one, that's no question. But because of his diva personality, very Terrell Owen-esque in a way, just way too talented for his own good. You don't really know if he has the work ethic, but he does. He's just, the comparisons to T.O. are strong. But let me tell you why this is going to propel Odell Beckham and the Cleveland Browns for NFL supremacy in the AFC next season. Baker Mayfield, without starting the first 2 games, broke the rookie passing record for touchdowns. That is incredible. I mean, you watch this guy all season long, just stands in there confident in the pocket. He's able to move around. He's making throws that nobody thinks that he should make, and then they're paying off and they're working off even better than you could think. He had a 94 passer rating for the season, and he's only going to get better. Smoother with his release, can make the reads, can go through his progressions, 1, 2, 3 from left to right across the field. He doesn't stare down his receiver. Yeah, he might immediately know where you might want to go with the football. Of course, you have your first read, but he is not scared to sit in that pocket to make every single read that he needs to make before he makes the right decision with either taking it himself, throwing the ball away, or making the perfect pass down the field, which I saw way too many times on the tape. The dude is unreal with his ball, with the football placement that he's able to give it to these guys in space and make sure that he can keep these guys on drag routes running in stride, whether it's throwing between 3 defenders in the corner of the end zone. Baker Mayfield just does it all. And he loves to throw the football down the field, deep down the field, and him and Odell Beckham are mutually going to fall in love with each other in this offense. Odell Beckham has been begging for a quarterback to throw him the football deep down the field ever since the year after 2014. I mean, like I said in the first episode of my podcast, do not sleep on Eli Manning as a confident quarterback in this league. Eli Manning is going to make the throws that he needs to make a majority of the time. But the one thing that, of course, with his age that he continues to lose is his arm strength. When you're throwing the football the way that Eli Manning throws it, and I mean in the way of you're throwing it all arm. In theory, yeah, out loud that sounds good, throwing the ball. But he's never driving the ball with his hips or with his legs, and that is where you generate the most power out of your throws. If you watch him on tape, if you watch him on the film, he just stands stationary and uses all arm to get his ball down the field. The problem with that is eventually his arm is just going to die out. It's just not going to be where it was before, and we're seeing it. Now, his mental and football IQ is still there. He still knows where he wants to put the ball and where he shouldn't and how he should do different things on the field, but he's not physically able to get the ball 60 yards down the field. Baker Mayfield has thrown at least 5 passes last season that were over 59 yards. That's incredible for a rookie to be able to do that at his size and stature, which everyone was doubting this kid out of the draft. Everyone. Everybody thought that Cleveland made the mistake by not taking Sam Darnold, and clearly Baker was proving them wrong week in, week out. I mean, to lead them to the record that he did in Cleveland, it's basically like they won the AFC Championship and somehow came up short in the Super Bowl. Like, that was the reaction in Cleveland with Baker Mayfield. But him and OBJ, man, it's going to be fun to watch next season. I can't wait. Him and his best friend Jarvis Landry standing side by side. I mean, those two are going to just be crazy impact players in the NFL. Especially this season coming up. I mean, it's just gonna be a fun. I'm so excited. I don't think I've ever been this excited for football in a long time with this offseason. But we're gonna talk about something that I brought up in my first episode, which was why Russell Wilson deserves to be the highest paid QB in the NFL. And what did I speak into fruition yesterday? 4 years, $140 million, $35 million a year for Russell Wilson. He deserves every single penny of it. Every penny. And Russell Wilson has just been a guy. He puts his head down. He leads that football team to wins on a consistent basis. And for the last 2 seasons, he's been doing it with a below average, even the last 3 seasons, a below average defense. And Seattle is, that's a team that was known for, LOB, the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman, Brandon Brown, or Byron Maxwell, Earl Thomas, Cam Chancellor. All those guys were just impact players on the field, but they just, after that Super Bowl loss, they just never got that culture back to where it was. And it's sad, but it's Pete Carroll's fault. I mean, Pete Carroll is the reason why that team isn't successful right now. Not to say that he's not a great head coach, but, I mean, half-yard line, you don't give Beast Mode the football. I mean, it's probably not going to boost your team morale up more than it was before, So definitely was not working out, and their defense has not gone back to where it was. I mean, their number one starting corner, I mean, you go from Richard Sherman to Shaq Griffin. I mean, I'm not saying that Shaq Griffin is a bad football player by any means, but he is not Richard Sherman. He is not a lockdown corner. I mean, their starting strong safety is Dexter McDougald. I mean, it's not Cam Chancellor. Like, who are they going to put at that ball hawk free safety position this year without Earl Thomas? I mean, who's going to be their starting free safety who's going to make a consistent impact on the field? Their linebacking core is always great, but always because of Bobby Wagner. I mean, Bobby Wagner is just incredible. And the defensive line has really never been anything too crazy. It really hasn't. I mean, you had Cliff Averill. You had Bruce Irvin the one year, who's now in Atlanta. I mean, Seattle's just kind of going downhill, and you really hope that you can lean on Chris Carson in the run game this year. So what does that mean? You have to lean on again for the third straight year. Probably 80+% of the offense is going to go through him is Russell Wilson. You know he's going to give you 30-plus touchdowns. You know he's giving you less than 10 interceptions. You know he's probably going to run for at least 300 to 400 yards. And you know he's probably going to get a couple touchdowns on the ground as well. And they might even throw him at corner. I mean, like, Russell Wilson, like, that dude is going to be expected to do so much next season. And when players get paid like that, sometimes they take a step back. I don't see that with Russell Wilson. I see Russell Wilson, this is a guy who wants to prove that there is a reason he has got paid this much money, and he's going to prove why he's going to still be the Seattle quarterback for at least the next 4 seasons. I hope for longer. I mean, he was drafted in 2012. He's 29 years old right now. He'll be 33 when the contract is up. I see Russell Wilson as a guy who's playing, when he gets, a little less mobile. I see him playing consistent football to at least 38, 39 years old. So if Seattle can keep him locked up and just, keep him happy, essentially, he's going to be the Seattle starting quarterback for at least the next 9 seasons. And that's a scary thought for every defense in the NFL who thinks that Russell Wilson, is just going to go away one day. I mean, he will eventually, but Russell Wilson, if you look at the passer rating and you compare it to guys like I did in the last episode, please make sure you check out the first episode. I did a breakdown of 3 quarterbacks with him, and, just to really prove how impressive he has been in the NFL since he has gotten here, and how low-key jealous I am that he was almost a Philadelphia Eagle, like, I think it was like 2 picks away, and we weren't able to scoop him up, but it's all good there. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was we're gonna go back to the AFC. Is Patrick Mahomes the starting quarterback of the future? Is he gonna be the guy in Kansas City? Listen. The dude had one of the most incredible first season starting quarterback seasons in NFL history. 50 passing touchdowns in your first season as an NFL quarterback. I mean, wow. That's all you can say is wow. I mean, watching him throw the football time in and time again, he was just so impressive. But then you got to think about the weapons that he had, right? I mean, you had Kareem Hunt, and then, he went away. But the running game didn't really go down without him. That's number 1. Number 2, you have Tyreek Hill. You have Travis Kelce, Chris Conley, Sammy Watkins. I mean, loaded on the offensive side of the ball. Patrick Mahomes wasn't pressured too much. He was probably in the middle, 16, 15 in terms of quarterback sacked, right? But he's so mobile. He's able to get away. It's like he's not mobile like a Cam Newton, but he's mobile kind of like an Andrew Luck. Like, he has the speed and the little bit of sneaky athleticism that he needs to get out of the pocket and make the right throw. I mean, this dude basically was playing NFL Street on the field. He was throwing across his body. He was throwing no-look passes. The the supreme confidence that Patrick Mahomes has at that young of an age, but there are some things that worry me. Andy Reid made Alex Smith look like a very confident and comparable quarterback. Andy Reid is an offensive genius, and we know this. He proved it time and time again with Donovan McNabb in that zero starting receiver core. Essentially, we had number threes all over the field back in the mid to late 2000s, and Andy Reid somehow made it work with his scheme and his system because he always does something different than everyone else, and it always works. So, is Patrick Mahomes going to have like a sophomore slump kind of season like a Todd Gurley did when he just got absolutely shut down? Is Patrick Mahomes going to be the guy to really lead Kansas City to AFC Championship Super Bowl contention every single year? It's hard to say because it's so young in his career, and we all know what early success can prove. I mean, if I had to think of a comparison to Patrick Mahomes, I'd probably say he's like a mix of Rodgers and Favre. He has the incredible arm talent of Aaron Rodgers, or like an Aaron Rodgers, but the costly possible mistake personality of Brett Favre. Brett Favre went out there and all he did was win, right? But there were seasons the Packers missed the playoffs. There were seasons where Brett Favre should have won another Super Bowl, but threw a ill-advised throw across his body to throw a pick six so that Tracy Porter could run it back. I mean, only thing that worries me about Patrick Mahomes is that gunslinging mentality. How long will it last in the NFL before, it's going to cost him mistakes on mistakes? That is the only thing that worries me. But you know what? I wasn't going to talk about this, but it just crossed my mind now, so I do want to put my opinions out there and get yours. Kareem Hunt in Cleveland. Now, we know I believe it is a 6-game suspension. And when he comes back, I mean, you already have guys like Nick Chubb as the starting running back, who I really like, by the way. Nick Chubb was impressing a lot of people, including myself, towards the end of the season. But is Kareem Hunt going to be an impact player? Oh, I'm sorry. Kareem, it's 8 games. So it is a 8-game violation. 8-game suspension next season. So he will enter the league back in week 9 for the Cleveland Browns next season. And what do you think Kareem Hunt's impact is going to be in Cleveland? Will he touch the field? Or will he just be almost dominant like he was last season? I think Kareem Hunt is a guy. I mean, let's just really quickly look at it from a fantasy perspective. If he's there in like the 15th round and people forget about Kareem Hunt, take him. Take him. No questions. Just have him sit on your bench. You're already going to have a receiver or, that random tight end that's going to sit on your bench anyway. You might as well let it be Kareem Hunt. And then you don't want to be the guy who remembers about Kareem Hunt in week 5, but he already got picked up in the waivers week 3. So pick up Kareem Hunt. Let him play a game. Don't start him. That's what I would do if I have him. I'll see, really how involved he is on the field. If he's super involved and he gets 145 yards and 2 touchdowns, I'm probably going to put him in next game. Depending on the defense that they're playing, of course. But let him play, kind of just, ease into Kareem Hunt back into the NFL. And also another thing, back not on a fantasy perspective, but just a real world perspective, do you agree with him being able to play the game of football again? I mean, it is an extremely touchy and sensitive topic when you're talking about domestic violence. But if you watch the video, yes, he takes it way too far with what he does at the end. I mean, the dude's just an idiot at that point. But the man, he was being harassed by this group in a hotel They were all intoxicated, and he's being harassed by this group of women and girls and like other people who are there when he's just with his friends just trying to get back to his room. It looked like they were kind of being chased. It looked like he was being yelled at, and they just kept getting in his face, and he felt disrespected, and he sadly resulted to physical violence, and it should have never gone that far. Honestly, if it ended at the push, we might be looking at a 1-game suspension, a 2-game suspension. But he goes back for the kick, and that was ridiculous. It was absolutely uncalled for. There was no reason for it. But I think he deserves a second chance in the league. I love Adrian Peterson, but I didn't think that AP deserved a second chance in the league. I mean, after seeing what he did to his child, I mean, it was disappointing. It was disturbing, really. And Adrian Peterson, a guy, I respect his football acumen, and I think he's one of the greatest running backs to have ever played in this league. But that is definitely something that I didn't personally agree with, that he should have been allowed back in the league so soon as he was. Honestly, same thing with Michael Vick. I mean, Michael Vick gave me great years as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, watching his practical MVP season in 2011. I mean, he definitely turned into a better person, but I think I would have rather had football without Michael Vick than with him after everything. I do understand why he was given the second chance, but if I was the guy in charge, with everything that he was involved with, I definitely would not have allowed it to happen. But with Kareem Hunt, I think he does deserve a second chance. I think that Kareem Hunt is a special football player, and if he gets his act right, he could become one of the best in the league possibly to ever do it, with the way he was running the football and the way he's able to catch it. He's somebody who definitely, to me, is going to be an impact player for Cleveland next season. And I think Cleveland is a playoff push team, no doubt about it. I think Cleveland is a possible 10-win team next season. Don't sleep on them. Watch Baker Mayfield throw for 30-plus touchdowns and under 13 interceptions. And watch Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, and Nick Chubb all go to work next season. Thank you guys so much. It's been so much fun again to record, and I truly appreciate everything and all the opportunities that have been given to me that I'm giving myself, and I just really want to become the best football podcast for you guys to listen to, and I want to be able to connect with you guys, and it's truly inspiring, and I really appreciate it. And thank you guys so much for listening, and have a great day. All right, goodbye.